My landlord asked, "Who's been picking up your packages?" My ex had impersonated me. "Who's been picking up your packages?" My landlord Marcus was standing in my doorway holding a clipboard, his expression somewhere between confused and concerned. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I'd just gotten home from my molecular biology lab at UC Davis. Still in my wrinkled scrubs, I was looking forward to nothing more than microwaving leftover pad thai and diving into my thesis research. "What do you mean?" I asked, juggling my keys and laptop bag. "I pick up my own packages." Marcus scratched his graying beard. "That's what I thought, but... Sarah, I've seen you maybe twice in the past 3 months collecting deliveries. But there's been someone here almost weekly, sometimes twice a week, claiming packages for apartment 2B. My stomach dropped. What did this person look like? Tall guy, brown hair, always wore those expensive running shoes, you know, the neon green ones? Said he was your boyfriend, that you'd sent him to grab your stuff because you were always in class. The Nike Air Maxes. Lime green with black trim. I bought them for Jake last Christmas, back when I thought we had a future together. Back when I still believed his charm meant something more than manipulation." "Jake Chen," I whispered, more to myself than to Marcus. "Yeah, that sounds right. He knew your full name, apartment number, even mentioned your graduate program when I asked for ID once. Seemed legit." Marcus's face darkened as he registered my expression. "Sarah, was I not supposed to?" "We broke up 4 months ago," I said, my voice barely steady. "He's not supposed to be here at all." The math was already spinning in my head. 4 months since our explosive breakup, when I'd finally had enough of Jake's controlling behavior and constant gaslighting. 3 months since I'd started wondering why my life felt like it was falling apart in slow motion. 3 months of missing packages that I'd assumed were delayed or misdelivered. "How many packages are we talking about?" I asked. Marcus flipped through pages on his clipboard. "I keep a log of everything that goes through the front office. Let's see, looks like maybe 15, 20 packages? Some were pretty big, looked like textbooks or electronics. A few were those small padded envelopes, probably medications or documents. 20 packages. My prescription anxiety medication that never arrived, forcing me to ration pills and skip doses. The replacement laptop charger I'd ordered 3 times. The letter from Berkeley, the one I'd been waiting for since February about their postdoc position that could have changed everything. "I need to see that log," I said. Marcus handed over the clipboard without hesitation. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." He was so convincing, and he knew details about you that I just assumed. "It's not your fault," I cut him off, though my hands were shaking as I scanned the delivery dates. October 15th, package from CVS Pharmacy. October 23rd, envelope from UC Berkeley Graduate Division. November 2nd, Amazon package containing the external hard drive I desperately needed for my research data backup. Every single item represented something I'd been frantically trying to track down, something I'd assumed was lost in the mail or stolen from a doorstep. Instead, Jake had been systematically intercepting my life, piece by piece. "Do you have security cameras?" I asked. "Just the one by the front entrance, but it only keeps footage for 30 days. Too late for most of the thefts, but maybe not for everything." I handed back the clipboard, my mind already racing ahead to what I needed to do next. "Marcus, if that man shows up here again, for any reason, can you please call me immediately?" "Absolutely." "And Sarah? We're going to figure this out." I spent the next 3 hours in my apartment making lists. Every missing package, every delayed delivery, every moment over the past 4 months when I'd felt like my life was spiraling out of control for reasons I couldn't understand. The picture that emerged made me physically sick. My phone buzzed with a text from my lab partner Emma. "Did you ever get that enzyme kit? Dr. Morrison is asking about the protein analysis results." The enzyme kit. I'd ordered it 6 weeks ago with my research stipend money, $3.40 that I couldn't afford to lose. When it never arrived, I'd had to ask Dr. Morrison for an extension on my thesis timeline, making up some excuse about supply chain delays. She'd been understanding but disappointed, and I knew it reflected poorly on my ability to manage independent research. Jake had cost me more than packages. He'd cost me my reputation. I opened my laptop and started going through my email confirmations, cross-referencing them with Marcus's log. The pattern was worse than I'd initially thought. Jake hadn't just been randomly stealing, he'd been strategic. The Berkeley letter was the one that hurt most. I'd applied for a competitive postdoctoral fellowship in February, a position that would set me up for the academic career I dreamed of since undergrad. When I never heard back, I assumed I'd been rejected. But seeing UC Berkeley Graduate Division on Marcus's list, dated March 15th, made my chest tight with rage and grief. The deadline for responding to fellowship offers had been March 30th. What if I'd gotten it? What if Jake had stolen my future along with everything else? I called Berkeley's Graduate Division, even though it was past 6 p.m. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the fellowship coordinator, was still in her office. "Sarah Chen?" "Yes, I remember your application. Quite impressive, actually. We sent your acceptance letter in mid-March. When we didn't hear back from you, we assumed you'd taken another position." The room spun slightly. "I never received that letter." "That's unusual. We sent it to the address on your application. Let me double-check our records." I heard typing in the background. "Yes, we definitely mailed it to your apartment address on Grove Street. The fellowship was for $52,000 annually, with full health benefits and research funding. We held the position open until the absolute deadline, but when you didn't respond. $52,000. Full benefits. Research funding. Everything I needed to escape the constant financial stress of graduate school and actually focus on my work. Is there any chance that position might still be available?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. We've already selected our cohort for this year. But please do apply again next cycle. Your research on protein crystallography was exactly what we were looking for." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the peeling linoleum floor, trying to process the magnitude of what Jake had taken from me. It wasn't just money or convenience, he'd stolen opportunities, derailed my timeline, and made me doubt my own competence for months. My phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, but I couldn't handle her voice right now, couldn't explain why I was crying over a phone call about a fellowship she didn't even know I'd applied for. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and searched for mail theft California Penal Code. The results were encouraging. Mail theft was a federal crime, punishable by fines up to $250,000 and up to 5 years in prison. Package theft could be prosecuted under California's theft laws, with penalties depending on the total value stolen. But I needed proof. Marcus's log was a start, but I needed evidence that would hold up in court. I needed to catch Jake in the act. I grabbed my notebook and started planning. I woke up Wednesday morning with a plan, but first I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I called in sick to Dr. Morrison's lab, something I'd never done before, and spent the day making phone calls. The CVS pharmacy confirmed that my anxiety medication refill had been picked up on October 15th by someone authorized on the account. When I pressed for details, the pharmacist reluctantly admitted they'd accepted Jake's ID after he provided my full name, date of birth, and address. He'd told them I was bedridden with the flu. "We're supposed to be more careful," the pharmacist said, clearly uncomfortable. "But he knew all your information, and we've seen boyfriends and family members pick up prescriptions before." Amazon was equally frustrating. 3 different customer service representatives told me that packages showed as successfully delivered to my address. When I explained they'd been stolen, they offered to refund my most recent order, the $89 textbook I'd ordered last week, but couldn't help with older purchases. "Our delivery confirmation shows packages were received by someone at the residence," the supervisor explained. "Without police reports for each incident, we can't process multiple refund claims." Police reports. I'd need documentation for everything. By noon, I was sitting in the Davis Police Department explaining my situation to Officer Janet Reyes, a woman in her 40s who took detailed notes as I walked through Marcus's delivery log. "This is definitely mail theft," she said, "but building a prosecutable case is going to require evidence beyond your landlord's records. Do you have any proof that your ex-boyfriend was the one collecting these packages?" "My landlord can identify him. He described Jake perfectly, even mentioned the specific shoes I bought him." "That's good, but defense attorneys love to argue about eyewitness identification. What we really need is video evidence or to catch him in the act." Officer Reyes leaned back in her chair. "Has he tried to contact you directly since the breakup?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through months of blocked calls and deleted voicemails. "He called constantly for the first 6 weeks. I blocked his number, but he started using different phones. The calls only stopped about a month ago. Right around when he figured out he could mess with you indirectly," she said grimly. "This kind of systematic harassment often escalates when direct contact gets cut off. The package theft gives him access to your life without risking a restraining order. So what do I do? First, we file a report documenting everything you've told me. Then, you need to set up a controlled situation where we can catch him stealing. Are you expecting any packages soon?" I shook my head. I'd been too scared to order anything for the past month. But I could order something specifically to catch him. That's exactly what I was thinking. Order something distinctive, something valuable enough to make the theft charges meaningful. Make sure your landlord knows it's coming and can watch for suspicious activity. If we're lucky, your ex will take the bait. What if he doesn't? What if he's gotten suspicious about why I haven't been getting packages lately? Officer Reyes smiled for the first time since I'd walked in. Then we get creative. Order multiple things. Make it look like you're back to your normal online shopping habits. One of them will get his attention. I spent the rest of Wednesday afternoon in a strange shopping spree, carefully selecting items that would seem legitimate but provide maximum legal impact. A new tablet for research, $340. Prescription contact lenses, $180. A professional-grade lab timer I actually needed for my thesis work, $75. Each order went to my Grove Street address with standard delivery. The hardest part was the waiting. I told Marcus about the plan, and he agreed to text me immediately if he saw Jake or anyone suspicious near the building. I gave him Jake's photo from my old Instagram posts, images from happier times that now made my skin crawl. "He's handsome," Marcus observed, studying the picture of Jake's easy smile and perfect teeth. "I can see how he'd be convincing. That was always Jake's strength. He charmed my friends, my professors, even my parents during our brief relationship. Everyone thought he was perfect for me, ambitious, intelligent, supportive. They didn't see the subtle ways he controlled conversations, how he'd undermine my confidence with backhanded compliments, or how he'd isolate me from friends by creating drama whenever I made plans without him." By Thursday evening, the first package had shipped. According to the tracking information, my tablet would arrive Friday afternoon. I told Dr. Morrison I might need to leave lab early for a medical appointment, technically true, since this situation was definitely affecting my health. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me wonder if Jake was somehow already there, already planning his next theft. But mixed with the anxiety was something else I hadn't felt in months, hope. For the first time since our breakup, I wasn't just reacting to Jake's manipulation. I was taking control. Tomorrow, we'd see just how far he was willing to go. Friday afternoon crawled by like torture. I kept checking my phone obsessively, package tracking, text from Marcus, the time. Dr. Morrison noticed my distraction during our 2 p.m. lab meeting about my protein crystallography results. "Sarah, you seem scattered today. Is everything all right with your research timeline?" "Yes, sorry Dr. Morrison. I'm just dealing with some personal logistics." The irony wasn't lost on me. Jake's theft had already derailed my timeline once with a missing enzyme kit, and here I was letting him disrupt my work again. At 3:15 p.m., my phone buzzed with a delivery notification. "Package delivered to front office, signature required." My heart hammered as I texted Marcus, "Did you see who picked it up?" 3 minutes passed. Then, "Nobody here yet. Package is sitting on my desk." I stared at the contradiction. According to FedEx, someone had signed for my tablet 15 minutes ago. But Marcus was literally sitting in the office, and the package was still there. Then it clicked. Jake wasn't just stealing packages randomly, he was intercepting the delivery trucks before they reached the building. I called Officer Reyes immediately. "He's not going through my landlord anymore. He must have figured out that Marcus was getting suspicious, so now he's catching the drivers before they get to the building." That's actually worse for him legally, she said. Intercepting packages directly from delivery drivers involves impersonating you to federal employees. That's mail fraud on top of theft. But it also makes him harder to catch. So what do we do now? We adapt. Can you find out exactly where he intercepted today's delivery? I called FedEx customer service and spent 20 minutes being transferred between departments before reaching someone who could help. The driver, Miguel Santos, was still on his route. Yeah, I remember that delivery, Miguel said when I finally reached him. Guy met me at the corner of Grove and 5th Street, said he was picking up for Sarah Chen in apartment 2B. Had your address written down and knew the tracking number. Seemed normal, happens all the time with college students. Grove and 5th was 2 blocks from my building. Jake had positioned himself perfectly to intercept packages while staying far enough away to avoid Marcus. Did he show any ID? I asked. Nah, but he knew all the details. Even mentioned you were his girlfriend, said you were stuck in some important lab work and couldn't leave. Real polite guy. Girlfriend. Even after 4 months, Jake was still claiming that connection, still using our past relationship to manipulate people into trusting him. I met Officer Reyes at the corner of Grove and 5th an hour later. It was the perfect intercept spot, visible from both directions, close enough to the building to seem legitimate, but far enough away to avoid witnesses who knew me personally. Smart, she admitted, surveying the location. He probably watches for delivery trucks and times his approach perfectly. Question is, how does he know when packages are coming? The answer hit me like ice water. My email. He still has access to my email. We rushed back to my apartment, where I frantically logged into my Gmail account and checked the security settings. There it was, buried in the account access section, an active session from an iPhone that wasn't mine, accessing my account daily for the past 4 months. Sarah Chen's iPhone was the device name, but I had an Android. Jake had set up email forwarding from his phone and disguised the device name to look legitimate. Every shipping confirmation, every tracking number, every delivery notification, he'd been seeing it all in real time. He knew exactly when to position himself at Grove and 5th. This is actually perfect evidence, Officer Reyes said, photographing my computer screen. Unauthorized email access is a federal crime. Combined with the package theft and mail fraud, we're building a solid case. I changed all my passwords and revoked every device access immediately. But the violation felt enormous. For 4 months, Jake had been reading my private emails, seeing every personal detail of my life post-breakup. My conversations with friends about therapy. Job applications. Even my worried emails to my parents about money stress he was directly causing. How many other accounts might he have accessed? Officer Reyes asked. The question made me nauseous. Banking, social media, university portal, health insurance, we'd shared passwords for everything when we were together, back when I thought trust meant transparency. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the pattern, same area code as Jake's original number, just different digits. Don't answer, Officer Reyes instructed. But don't decline it either. Let it go to voicemail. We listened as my voicemail played back 20 minutes later. Hey Sarah, it's Jake. I think there might be some confusion about your package deliveries lately. Maybe we should talk about it. I'll be around the neighborhood this weekend if you want to grab coffee and sort things out. His voice was casual, friendly even. No hint of guilt or acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Just Jake being charming, acting like systematic theft was a minor misunderstanding between exes. He's getting nervous, Officer Reyes observed. The question is whether he'll back off or escalate. I didn't sleep at all Friday night. Every car door, every footstep in the hallway, every creak of the old building had me convinced Jake was somehow getting closer. Officer Reyes had advised me not to respond to his voicemail, but his casual tone kept replaying in my head. Maybe we should talk about it, like he was doing me a favor. Like I was the unreasonable one. Saturday morning, I was nursing my 3rd cup of coffee when Marcus texted. Weird thing, just had a DoorDash driver ask about apartment 2B. Said someone ordered food for you but wanted to make sure you were home first. I told him you probably weren't expecting anything. Guy seemed confused and left. My hand started shaking. I hadn't ordered any food. I called the DoorDash customer service line and after 20 minutes of transfers, reached a supervisor who could look up orders for my address. Yes, we show an order placed at 9:23 a.m. for apartment 2B on Grove Street. $47.82 from Chen's Garden, spring rolls, beef and broccoli, fried rice. Payment method shows a Visa ending in 3847. I didn't recognize that credit card number. Who placed the order? Account name shows Sarah Chen, but I can't give you more details without verifying the payment method. After I hung up, I immediately checked my credit cards and bank accounts. Nothing unusual, no charges I didn't recognize. But that Visa number bothered me. I grabbed my old wallet from my desk drawer, the one I'd stopped using after the breakup because it reminded me too much of date nights with Jake. There it was. My old Chase Freedom card, the one I'd canceled in August when I was cleaning up shared accounts. Except apparently I'd never actually canceled it, just stopped using it and forgot about the automatic payments. My online banking showed the card was still active with a $3,200 credit limit. When I clicked on recent activity, my stomach dropped. September 15th, $127 charge to a company called Identity Forge Solutions. October 3rd, $89 to Print Pro Business Services. October 22nd, another $156 to Identity Forge. I'd never heard of either company, but the amounts were small enough that I wouldn't have noticed them among my usual expenses if I'd been actively monitoring this account. A quick Google search made everything worse. Identity Forge Solutions specialized in novelty identification documents, fake IDs. Print Pro offered professional document reproduction services including official letterhead and forms. Jake hadn't just been intercepting my packages. He'd been using my credit card to create fake identification, probably with my name and his photo. That's how he'd been so confident approaching delivery drivers and convincing pharmacy staff. He wasn't just claiming to be my boyfriend anymore, he was impersonating me directly. I called Officer Reyes immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. Saturday afternoon, she was probably off duty. I left a detailed message about the credit card charges and fake ID companies, then called the fraud department at Chase. I need to report unauthorized charges and cancel this card immediately, I told the representative. I can certainly help with that. I show 3 charges in the past 90 days that you're disputing? All 3. I never authorized any of those purchases. As she walked me through the fraud report, another thought occurred to me. Can you tell me if this card has been used for any other online accounts? Like if someone set up automatic payments? Let me check. Yes, I show a recurring payment authorization for Amazon Prime and one for something called mailboxforwarding.com. $29.99 monthly since September. Mailboxforwarding.com. I pulled it up on my laptop while still on the phone with Chase. It was a service that let you rent a mailbox with a real street address, and they'd forward packages to your actual location for a fee. Ma'am, should I cancel those automatic payments as well? Yes, cancel everything. But as soon as I hung up, I realized canceling might have been a mistake. If Jake was using a forwarding service, that meant there was a paper trail of where he was actually sending my stolen packages. That was evidence. I tried calling mailboxforwarding.com, but their customer service was closed weekends. I'd have to wait until Monday, and hope that canceling the payment wouldn't immediately alert Jake that I was onto his system. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. Same DoorDash driver came back. This time he had someone with him, tall guy, brown hair, wearing those green shoes. They're talking in the parking lot right now. My heart hammered as I texted back. Can you see them from your window? Yes. The tall guy is showing the driver something on his phone. Driver looks convinced now. They're walking toward the building. Jake was there. Right now, using whatever fake documentation he'd purchased with my stolen credit card to convince the delivery driver that he was me, that he belonged here. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking so badly I could barely press the numbers. 911, what's your emergency? Someone is impersonating me to steal my deliveries. I have an ongoing case with Officer Reyes at Davis PD, and the suspect is at my building right now. Are you in immediate physical danger? I looked out my second floor window and saw Jake's familiar silhouette near the building entrance, saw him laugh at something the delivery driver said. That easy, charming smile that had fooled everyone, including me. I don't know, I whispered. But he's here. The dispatcher kept me on the line while patrol units were en route, but I couldn't stop watching from my window. Jake stood confidently next to the DoorDash driver, gesturing toward my building like he belonged there. Even from 2 stories up, I could see that familiar tilt of his head when he was being persuasive, the same look he'd used when convincing me to skip study groups or cancel plans with friends. Ma'am, officers are approximately 3 minutes away, the dispatcher said. Can you still see the suspect? Yes, wait. Something was wrong. Jake kept checking his phone and looking around, his body language shifting from casual to alert. I think he knows something's wrong. The DoorDash driver was walking back toward his car, food bags in hand, shaking his head. Whatever Jake had shown him apparently wasn't convincing enough this time. Marcus must have warned the driver somehow. Then Jake looked up. Even through my window, across the parking lot, I felt the moment his eyes found mine. He didn't wave or call out. He just stared for a long, cold moment, then pulled out his phone. My phone immediately rang. Unknown number again. Don't answer, the dispatcher instructed, but I could see Jake holding his phone to his ear 2 stories below me. Officers are 1 minute out. Jake ended the call and started walking toward the building's main entrance. Not running, not rushing, walking with purpose, like he had every right to be there. He's coming inside, I told the dispatcher, backing away from the window. He's entering my building. I heard his footsteps in the stairwell. The old building's thin walls carried sound perfectly, and I knew the rhythm of his walk like a song I couldn't forget. 2 steps at a time, confident and quick. He stopped outside my door. 3 soft knocks. Sarah? I know you're home. I saw you in the window. His voice was calm, reasonable. The same tone he'd used during our relationship when he wanted to talk through my concerns about his behavior, which really meant talk me out of trusting my own instincts. Sarah, this is ridiculous. I'm just trying to help you with your package situation. You've obviously been having delivery problems. I pressed myself against the kitchen wall, phone still pressed to my ear. The dispatcher was giving me instructions, but I could barely process her words over the sound of my own heartbeat. I know you're scared, Jake continued through the door. But you're making this way more complicated than it needs to be. I've been collecting your stuff to keep it safe. Your building isn't secure, anyone could take your packages. The audacity was breathtaking. He was literally spending 4 months of systematic theft as a favor, as protection. This was Jake's specialty, taking his worst behaviors and reframing them as proof of how much he cared. I have about $5,700 worth of your packages at my place, he said. Plus that letter from Berkeley that you're probably wondering about. We should really discuss that opportunity, Sarah. It could be life-changing. My blood turned to ice. $5,700, he'd been keeping track, calculating the exact value like it was some kind of business transaction. And mentioning Berkeley wasn't an accident. He was letting me know that he'd read the fellowship letter, that he knew exactly what he'd stolen from me. The doorknob rattled. He was testing whether it was locked. I still have keys, he said quietly. I made copies before I gave yours back, just in case you ever needed help with anything. Of course he did. Of course Jake had planned ahead, had kept access to my space even after I'd explicitly ended things. Sarah, the police aren't going to help you get your packages back. Only I can do that. So let's be adults about this and... Sirens cut through his words. Multiple cars from the sound of it, getting closer fast. The footsteps retreated immediately, quickly, taking the stairs down 2 at a time. By the time I made it back to my window, Jake was jogging across the parking lot toward the street, hands in his pockets like he was just out for casual exercise. He knew exactly where the building's exit routes were, exactly how to disappear before the police arrived. The police arrived 30 seconds too late. By the time Officer Reyes and 2 patrol officers reached my apartment, Jake had vanished completely. I watched from my window as they searched the parking lot and surrounding streets, but he was gone. He said he has keys, I told Officer Reyes as she examined my door lock. Copies that he made before returning mine. She ran her fingers along the doorframe, checking for scratches or signs of tampering. We need to get this lock changed immediately. Today, if possible. And I want you to document everything he said through the door. I replayed Jake's words, but one detail kept echoing. $5,700 worth of your packages. He'd been keeping a running total, treating my stolen belongings like inventory. The precision of it was somehow more disturbing than the theft itself. He mentioned Berkeley specifically, I said. The fellowship letter. He knows I know about it now, and he's using it as leverage. Officer Reyes made notes while the other officers canvassed the building. Marcus had given them a detailed description of Jake's interaction with the DoorDash driver, including the fake documentation he'd shown. The driver said it looked like a legitimate ID, Marcus explained. Had Sarah's name and address, but the photo was definitely the tall guy. Professional quality, not some fake college students make. That confirmed my theory about the identity forged charges on my credit card. Jake wasn't just impersonating me verbally anymore, he had physical documents to back up his claims. My phone rang while we were talking. Jake's number, not a burner this time, but his actual phone. Answer it, Officer Reyes instructed. Keep him talking. We might be able to trace the call location. I put the phone on speaker with shaking hands. That was unnecessary, Sarah. Jake's voice was calm but with an edge I recognized from our worst fights. Calling the police over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. Jake, you've been stealing my mail for 4 months. Protecting your mail, he corrected smoothly. Do you have any idea how many packages get stolen in your neighborhood? I've been doing you a favor, and this is how you thank me. Officer Reyes was frantically texting someone, probably trying to coordinate the trace. I want my belongings back, I said. All of them. Including the Berkeley letter. Jake laughed, that familiar sound that used to make me feel special and now made my skin crawl. The Berkeley letter, right. Sarah, did you even read it carefully? The fellowship comes with some pretty strict requirements. Living stipend tied to specific research commitments. You would have been locked into their program for 3 years minimum. He was doing it again, taking my choices away by reframing them as problems he was solving. In Jake's mind, he hadn't stolen my opportunity, he'd saved me from making a mistake. That wasn't your decision to make, I said. Wasn't it? Sarah, you've never been good at seeing the big picture. Remember when you wanted to switch thesis advisors last year? I talked you out of that disaster. Remember when you almost took that unpaid internship in San Diego? I helped you see how impractical that was. Every example he cited made me feel sicker. How many of my choices had Jake influenced? How many opportunities had I passed up because he'd convinced me they were wrong for me? Those were different, I said weakly. Were they? I've been looking out for you since we met, Sarah. Even after you decided to end things, I kept protecting your interests. The Berkeley position would have been a mistake. Trust me. Officer Reyes held up her phone, showing me a text, * call traced to Grove Street area. Units en route, *. Where are my packages now, Jake? I asked, trying to keep him talking. Somewhere safe. But Sarah, if you keep involving the police, this gets complicated. I could just dispose of everything. Save myself the trouble. The threat was clear, delivered in that same reasonable tone he'd used to threaten to dispose of my friendships when they interfered with his plans. Or, he continued, you could meet me somewhere public, somewhere you'd feel safe, and we can work this out like adults. I'll bring everything, packages, Berkeley letter, even some things you didn't know you were missing. Things you didn't know you were missing, how much more had he taken? Officer Reyes shook her head firmly, but Jake was still talking. There's a Starbucks on Russell Boulevard, the one near campus where we used to study together. Meet me there tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone, bring no police, and I'll return everything. Plus, Sarah, I think you'll want to hear about some other opportunities I've been managing for you. The line went dead. Officer Reyes immediately got on her radio, coordinating with the units searching for Jake's location. Suspect was on Grove Street as of 3 minutes ago, driving what appeared to be a dark sedan, she reported. But I knew they wouldn't find him. Jake was too careful, too good at disappearing when things got complicated. You're not seriously considering meeting him, Officer Reyes said after she finished with dispatch. Of course not. But even as I said it, my mind was spinning. Other opportunities I've been managing for you, what else had Jake intercepted? How many more life-changing letters or emails had he decided I wasn't ready to handle? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your university email. Look for messages from Dr. Patricia Williams at Stanford. J. Dr. Williams was a renowned researcher in my field, someone whose work I'd cited extensively in my thesis. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my university portal, searching for any emails from Stanford. Nothing in my inbox. Nothing in sent items. I checked my deleted folder and found it, a message from Dr. Williams dated 6 weeks ago with the subject line Research Position Opportunity, Time Sensitive. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dear Sarah. Your advisor, Dr. Morrison, forwarded your recent publication on protein crystallography methods. I'm impressed with your innovative approach to X-ray diffraction analysis. I have an immediate opening for a research associate position in my lab at Stanford, with a starting salary of $68,000 and full benefits. The position would begin January 1st and offers excellent opportunities for career advancement *. Given the timing of our funding cycle, I'll need a response by November 15th. Please contact me at your ⁻earliest convenience to discuss this opportunity *. Best regards. Dr. Patricia Williams. Stanford University School of Medicine. November 15th. That was yesterday. I frantically typed a response explaining that I'd never received her original email, that there had been some technical difficulties with my account. But I knew it was too late. Dr. Williams had probably already offered the position to someone else. Officer Reyes read over my shoulder. He's been systematically sabotaging your career opportunities. This isn't just theft anymore, this is harassment designed to control your life choices. Another text arrived. There are 7 other emails you haven't seen. Some with deadlines that haven't passed yet. 2 p.m. tomorrow, Sarah. Don't make me wait. J. 7 other emails. 7 more opportunities that Jake had decided I couldn't handle, couldn't be trusted to make decisions about. My entire professional future was sitting in his hands, being parceled out like rewards for good behavior. We can set up surveillance at the Starbucks, Officer Reyes suggested. Plainclothes officers, unmarked vehicles. You wouldn't actually have to go in. But what if he sees them? What if he just leaves? Those emails could contain job offers, conference invitations, research collaborations. My voice broke. I can't lose any more opportunities because I'm too scared to face him. Sarah, this man has been stalking you for months. He's stolen thousands of dollars worth of your property, compromised your email accounts, created fake identification, and now he's making threats. Meeting him alone would be extremely dangerous. She was right, but the thought of 7 more emails, 7 more chances at the career I'd worked toward for 6 years, made it hard to think clearly. Jake knew exactly what he was doing. He was using my own ambitions against me, making my stolen future the bait in his trap. My phone rang again. Dr. Morrison's name appeared on the screen. Sarah, I just got the strangest email, she said when I answered. Someone claiming to be you wrote to Dr. Williams at Stanford, declining her research position offer. But the writing style was completely wrong, and the email address was slightly different from your usual university account. Do you know anything about this? My blood turned to ice. What did the email say exactly? Let me read it to you, Dr. Morrison said, and I could hear papers shuffling. It came from an address that looked like yours but had an extra N in your last name S.Chen instead of S.Chen. The message said, Dear Dr. Williams, thank you for your generous offer, but I decided to focus on completing my current graduate program. I'm not ready for such a significant career transition at this time. Best wishes, Sarah Chen. Officer Reyes was frantically taking notes, her expression growing darker with each word. The email was sent this morning at 9:47 a.m., Dr. Morrison continued. Sarah, the phrasing is completely unlike your usual communication style. You would never turn down an opportunity like this without discussing it with me first, and you certainly wouldn't use phrases like not ready for such a significant career transition. That sounds like someone else's voice entirely. Jake's voice. I could practically hear him dictating those words, using his favorite phrases about my supposed inability to handle big decisions. Dr. Morrison, I never sent that email. Someone has been impersonating me online for months. I never even saw Dr. Williams' original offer. I was afraid of that. Sarah, this is very serious. Dr. Williams called me an hour ago, concerned about your sudden change in communication style. She's suspicious enough that she hasn't filled the position yet, but she needs clarification immediately. The real deadline was yesterday, but given these circumstances, she might extend it if you contact her directly within the next few hours. My hands shook as I wrote down Dr. Williams' direct phone number. A genuine second chance, but only if I could convince her that I was the real Sarah Chen, not whoever had been impersonating me. There's something else, Dr. Morrison said, her voice hesitant. Dr. Williams mentioned that someone called her office yesterday, claiming to be your boyfriend. He said you were dealing with some personal issues and might not be communicating clearly for a while. He asked her to be patient with any erratic emails from your account. Jake had been setting up his fake rejection email, priming Dr. Williams to expect confused or inconsistent communication from me. If she received contradictory messages now, she might dismiss both as evidence of my supposed instability. Professor, I need to ask you something important, I said, my voice barely steady. In the past few months, has anyone contacted you about me? Anyone claiming to be family or a boyfriend, asking about my academic progress or emotional state? The pause that followed confirmed my worst fears. In October, yes. A young man called saying he was concerned about your mental health, that you've been struggling with anxiety and making impulsive decisions about your academic future. He asked if I'd noticed any changes in your performance or judgment. I told him I couldn't discuss student information with unauthorized parties, but what? I did start paying closer attention to you after that call. Looking for signs of distress or poor decision-making. When you had that delay with the enzyme kit, when you seemed scattered in recent meetings, I wondered if there was truth to his concerns. The manipulation was so much deeper than I'd realized. Jake hadn't just been stealing my opportunities, he'd been systematically undermining my professional reputation, planting seeds of doubt about my competence and stability. Officer Reyes gestured for me to put the call on speaker. Dr. Morrison, this is Officer Reyes with the Davis Police Department. We have an active investigation into harassment and identity theft targeting Sarah. The person who contacted you was her ex-boyfriend, who has been intercepting her communications and impersonating her for months. Oh my God, Dr. Morrison breathed. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I should have told you about that call immediately instead of just watching you differently. It's not your fault, I managed. He's very convincing. But inside, I was calculating the damage. How many professors, colleagues, and potential employers now saw me as unstable? How many opportunities had I lost not just to direct theft, but to Jake's careful destruction of my professional reputation? My phone buzzed with another text, clocks ticking, Sarah. Dr. Williams won't wait forever. Neither will the 6 other opportunities. 2 p.m. tomorrow. Come alone, or watch your future disappear completely. J. Sunday morning, I made the hardest phone call of my life. Dr. Williams? This is Sarah Chen from UC Davis. I need to explain what's been happening with my email communications. The conversation lasted 47 minutes. I walked her through everything, the stolen packages, the fake email accounts, Jake's systematic impersonation. Dr. Williams listened with the careful attention of someone accustomed to evaluating complex data. This explains several inconsistencies I noticed, she said finally. The writing style in yesterday's decline email was completely different from your published work. And the phone call from your supposed boyfriend raised red flags. Legitimate partners don't typically discuss their significant other's mental health with potential employers. Is the position still available? It is. But Sarah, I need you to understand something. If you accept this offer, you'll be working in a high-security research environment. We conduct background checks on all employees, and any ongoing legal issues or personal safety concerns could complicate your clearance. My heart sank. Even if I got my stolen future back, Jake's harassment might still disqualify me from taking it. However, Dr. Williams continued, if you're actively working with law enforcement to resolve this situation, that actually demonstrates exactly the kind of problem-solving and resilience we value here. Can you have the investigating officer send me documentation of your case by Tuesday? After hanging up, I found Officer Reyes had been busy. She'd obtained a warrant for Jake's phone records and discovered something crucial. He'd been using a GPS tracking app to monitor my location for the past 3 months. He probably installed it when you were together, she explained, showing me printouts of his tracking history. It's hidden in what looks like a legitimate weather app. Look at this pattern. Every time you left campus, he knew exactly where you were going. The data was terrifying in its completeness. Jake had tracked every trip to the grocery store, every late night in the lab, every coffee date with Emma. He'd known my schedule better than I did. That's how he timed the package interception so perfectly, I realized. He knew when I'd be in class or at work, knew when it was safe to approach delivery drivers. And look at this. Officer Reyes pointed to a cluster of location pings from yesterday. After he left your building, he didn't go home. He drove directly to 3 different shipping stores, FedEx, UPS, and DHL. He's probably setting up new forwarding addresses now that he knows we're onto his original system. My phone had been buzzing constantly with texts from unknown numbers, all variations of Jake's ultimatum about tomorrow's meeting. But mixed in with his messages was something else, delivery notifications for packages I hadn't ordered. Amazon, your order of Samsung Galaxy tablet has shipped. Best Buy, your MacBook Pro order confirmed $2,299.99. Apple, iPhone 14 Pro Max, delivery scheduled for tomorrow. I showed the notifications to Officer Reyes. I didn't order any of this stuff. But someone using your identity did. Look at the delivery addresses. Every package was being sent to different locations across Davis, apartment complexes, office buildings, even a few residential homes. None of them were places I recognized. He's creating a massive delivery operation, Officer Reyes said grimly. If you don't show up tomorrow, he's probably planning to intercept thousands of dollars in merchandise ordered with your compromised accounts. I checked my credit cards frantically, but found no unauthorized charges. Then I remembered what Jake had said about managing opportunities one didn't know about. Officer Reyes, what if he applied for new credit cards in my name? What if he's been building an entire fake financial identity? We spent the next hour calling credit monitoring services and discovered the horrifying scope of Jake's operation. 7 credit cards opened in my name since August. 2 checking accounts. Even a student loan application that had been approved for $15,000. My credit score had jumped 40 points in the past 3 months, not because I was managing money better, but because Jake was making payments on accounts I didn't know existed. This is identity theft on a massive scale, Officer Reyes said, photographing all the documentation. He's been using your information to build a parallel financial life. But the most chilling discovery came when we looked up the delivery addresses for tomorrow's packages. Every single location was within a 2-block radius of the Starbucks where Jake wanted to meet. He wasn't just threatening to withhold my stolen opportunities anymore. He was orchestrating an elaborate financial fraud scheme with me as the unwitting centerpiece, and our confrontation as the grand finale. We need to catch him tomorrow, I said, staring at the evidence spread across my kitchen table. Not just for the packages or the emails, but for all of it. Officer Reyes nodded. Then we give him exactly what he's asking for. I spent Sunday night planning what might be the most important performance of my life. Officer Reyes and I went over every detail of Monday's operation until I could recite the plan in my sleep. The key is making him feel like he's in control, she explained as we tested the recording equipment hidden in my jacket. Let him talk, let him think he's manipulating you. The more he says, the stronger our case becomes. At 1:47 p.m. Monday, I sat in my car across from the Starbucks on Russell Boulevard, watching unmarked police vehicles position themselves around the parking lot. Officer Martinez was posing as a graduate student in the corner booth, laptop open, looking perfectly natural. Detective Chen, no relation, despite the name, had taken a table by the window with a clear view of the entire cafe. My phone buzzed. Jake, I can see your car. Come inside. Alone. My hands trembled as I locked the car and walked toward the entrance. Through the window, I spotted him immediately, same table where we'd studied together countless times during our relationship. He'd chosen it deliberately, I realized, another psychological manipulation. He wanted me to remember when things were good between us. Jake looked up as I entered, that familiar smile spreading across his face like nothing had changed. Sarah. You look tired. I slid into the chair across from him, hyper-aware of the recording device against my ribs. Where are my packages, Jake? Straight to business? No, hello, how have you been? He gestured to the menu. You should order something. Remember how you always got the vanilla latte with extra foam? Some things never change. But I had changed, and I wasn't going to let him pretend otherwise. You said you had my belongings. And 7 emails I haven't seen. Jake pulled out a tablet, ironically, the same model he'd stolen from my Friday delivery, and opened what looked like a folder labeled Sarah Important. Even from across the table, I could see dozens of email screenshots. Dr. Patricia Williams was just the beginning, he said, scrolling through the files. Look at this one, conference invitation to present your crystallography research at MIT. Full travel expenses paid, networking with the top researchers in your field. The deadline to respond was November 20th. My heart clenched. That conference was exactly the kind of career boost I needed. Here's another one, Jake continued, clearly enjoying my reaction. Research grant opportunity from the National Science Foundation. $75,000 over 2 years to fund your graduate work. Application deadline December 1st, still time for that one, if you're interested. Each email he showed me felt like a physical blow. These weren't just opportunities, they were the building blocks of the academic career I dreamed of since freshman year. Why? I whispered, my voice barely audible over the cafe's background noise. Why would you do this to me? Jake's expression softened into something that might have looked like concern to anyone watching. Because you never think things through, Sarah. Remember when you wanted to study abroad in Copenhagen junior year? I helped you realize that would derail your graduation timeline. When you considered that research assistant position with Dr. Kovac? I pointed out that his lab had terrible funding prospects. Those were my choices to make. Were they? Sarah, you've always been brilliant with the technical stuff, proteins, crystallography, all that complex science. But life decisions? Career strategy? You need guidance. He leaned forward, his voice taking on that patient, explaining tone that used to make me feel stupid. Look at Berkeley. If you'd accepted that fellowship, you'd be locked into their program right now, stuck with their research priorities instead of finishing your own thesis. That was my decision to make, I repeated, louder this time. And you would have made the wrong one, Jake replied smoothly. Just like you're making the wrong decision now by involving the police instead of talking to me directly. He glanced toward Officer Martinez's table, and my blood turned to ice. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the plainclothes cops? The unmarked cars? Sarah, I've been watching you for months. I know your patterns, your habits, your mistakes. The trap was closing, but not the way we'd planned. Jake's casual acknowledgement of the police surveillance sent my heart racing, but he didn't seem panicked. If anything, he looked amused, like this was all going according to some plan I didn't understand. The thing is, Sarah, I've been preparing for this conversation for weeks, he said, pulling out his phone with deliberate slowness. Ever since you changed your passwords and started getting suspicious about your missing packages. He opened what looked like a video file and turned the screen toward me. The footage showed me entering my apartment building 3 days ago, clearly taken from a car parked across the street. I've been documenting your erratic behavior, Jake explained in that same patient tone. The paranoia, the sudden suspicion of innocent package deliveries, the irrational accusations against someone who's only been trying to help you. My mouth went dry as I realized what he was doing. You're creating a narrative. I'm protecting myself, he corrected. Sarah, when this all comes out, and it will come out, I need evidence that you've been unstable for months. That you've been making wild accusations about theft when I was simply helping manage deliveries for someone who was clearly overwhelmed by graduate school pressures. He scrolled to another video, this one showing me talking frantically on my phone outside the police station. Without audio, it looked exactly like the kind of manic behavior someone might exhibit during a mental health crisis. You see how this could be misinterpreted? Jake asked, his voice dripping with false concern. A struggling graduate student, facing academic pressure, creates elaborate conspiracy theories about her caring ex-boyfriend. It's textbook stress-induced paranoia. The manipulation was so sophisticated it took my breath away. Jake hadn't just been stealing from me, he'd been building a counter-narrative that painted me as mentally unstable and him as the victim of my delusions. The credit cards, Jake. The fake IDs. How do you explain those? His smile widened. What credit cards? Sarah, I think you need to check your facts before making accusations like that. Identity theft is a serious crime, you shouldn't throw those words around casually. A chill ran down my spine as I understood. Jake had cleaned house. The credit cards, the fake ID purchases, probably the mail forwarding service, he'd covered his tracks as soon as he realized I was investigating. I have transaction records, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wondered if they'd already been erased somehow. Do you? Because I'd be very careful about making claims you can't substantiate. False accusations can have serious legal consequences. Jake glanced meaningfully toward Detective Chen's table. Especially when you're making them in front of law enforcement. My recording device felt suddenly heavy against my ribs. Everything I'd said in the past 10 minutes could be used against me if Jake had somehow eliminated the evidence of his crimes. Now, Jake continued, closing the tablet and folding his hands on the table like we were discussing weekend plans, let's talk about how we resolve this situation. I still have your packages, and I'm willing to return them. But I need some assurance that you're going to stop this harassment campaign against me. Harassment campaign? The police reports, Sarah. The false accusations. The attempt to involve my employer, yes, I know Dr. Williams called asking about character references. You're trying to destroy my reputation based on paranoid fantasies. The room felt like it was tilting. Jake had somehow contacted Dr. Williams and positioned himself as a victim of my false accusations. Every move I'd made to expose him, he'd anticipated and countered. Here's what's going to happen, Jake said, his voice dropping to just above a whisper. You're going to walk over to those police officers and explain that this was all a misunderstanding. That we've worked things out between ourselves like adults. Then you're going to stop filing false reports and let me move on with my life. And if I don't? Jake pulled out a manila envelope and slid it halfway across the table. Dr. Williams isn't the only person I've contacted, Sarah. I've been in touch with Dr. Morrison, the Berkeley Fellowship Committee, even the NSF Grant Office. I've expressed concerns about your recent behavior, your apparent paranoia and tendency toward false accusations. Academic communities are small, reputations matter. The envelope contained what looked like email printouts, but I couldn't read them from my angle. I didn't need to. Jake's message was clear, he could destroy my academic future even more thoroughly than he already had. Choose carefully, he said softly. Because once I press send on the emails I've already drafted, your career in research will be over before it starts. I stared at Jake across that familiar table, my mind racing through possibilities while he waited for my surrender. But something he'd said was bothering me, a detail that didn't quite fit his carefully constructed narrative. You mentioned Dr. Williams called asking for character references, I said slowly. When exactly did that happen? Jake's confident expression flickered for just a moment. Last week sometime. After you made your wild accusations to her. That's interesting, I said, pulling out my own phone. Because I have Dr. Williams on speed dial now. Should we call her together and confirm that story? The flicker became a full pause. Jake's hand moved slightly toward the manila envelope, a protective gesture I recognized from poker games during our relationship. He was bluffing about something. Sarah, I don't think involving more people in this situation. Dr. Williams? I said, having already hit dial. It's Sarah Chen. I'm sitting with Jake right now, and he mentioned you called him for character references. Could you clarify when that conversation happened? I put the phone on speaker before Jake could object. Dr. Williams's voice filled the space between us, clear and professional. I'm sorry, what? Sarah, I have no idea who Jake is. I've never contacted any references about you beyond your advisor, Dr. Morrison. Why would I call your ex-boyfriend for professional references? Jake's face went completely blank. For the first time since I'd sat down, his careful control slipped, and I saw something raw underneath, panic. Dr. Williams, thank you for clarifying. I'll call you back later, I said, ending the call before Jake could recover. Interesting, I continued, watching his face carefully. So that was a lie. What else have you been lying about? Sarah, you're misunderstanding the situation. Am I? I opened my own phone and pulled up the Chase Fraud Department's email from yesterday. Because I also have documentation of every fraudulent charge made on my old credit card, including detailed transaction records that the bank has already flagged as identity theft. Jake's eyes darted toward the exit, but Detective Chen had quietly moved to block that path during our conversation. The thing is, Jake, while you were busy creating fake videos to make me look unstable, you forgot something important about me. I leaned forward, feeling steady for the first time in months. I'm a scientist. I document everything. I have transaction records, email headers showing the fake accounts, even screenshots of the tracking app you installed on my phone. You can't prove. Officer Martinez has been recording this entire conversation, I said, loud enough for the officer to hear across the cafe. Including your admission that you've been watching me for months and your threats to destroy my academic reputation. Jake's head snapped toward Officer Martinez's table, and I saw the moment he realized how completely he'd miscalculated. His assumption that I'd be too intimidated to think clearly had led him to confess to months of surveillance and harassment. And Jake? I added, pulling out the tablet I'd brought with me, not to show him evidence, but to document his reaction. Those packages you're supposedly holding hostage? Amazon's fraud department canceled all those orders when I reported the identity theft. The deliveries you're expecting today? They're not coming. The color drained from Jake's face as he understood. His elaborate scheme to intercept thousands in fraudulent merchandise had just collapsed, and he was sitting in a cafe surrounded by police officers with hours of recorded confessions. You always underestimated me, I said quietly. That was your biggest mistake. Jake's hand was shaking as he reached for the manila envelope, but Detective Chen was already standing, badge visible, walking toward our table. Jake Chen, Detective Chen said calmly, you're under arrest for mail theft, identity fraud, and stalking. As Detective Chen read Jake his rights, I watched the carefully constructed facade I'd lived with for 8 months finally crumble. But Jake had one more card to play. Sarah, he said, his voice taking on that familiar pleading tone as the handcuffs clicked into place. You're making a huge mistake. I still have your Berkeley letter, the actual physical document. And there are things in those emails you haven't seen yet. Things about your family. My blood turned to ice. What about my family? Your parents applied for a second mortgage last month, Jake said, his words rushing out as Detective Chen guided him toward the exit. They're struggling financially, but they didn't want to worry you. There's an email from your mom asking if you needed money for school, if that's why you've been so distant lately. The manipulation was breathtaking even in handcuffs. Jake was using my parents' private financial struggles, information he'd stolen from my email, as a final emotional weapon. That letter never reached you either, he continued as other cafe patrons stared openly at the arrest unfolding in their Monday afternoon study session. Your mom sent it 6 weeks ago. She's been worried sick because you never responded. Officer Martinez approached our table as Jake was led away, but I was already dialing my mother's number with shaking hands. Mom? It's Sarah. I need to ask you about an email you sent 6 weeks ago. The silence that followed confirmed Jake's words. When my mother finally spoke, her voice was thick with worry and confusion. Sweetheart, I sent that email because your father and I were concerned about your financial situation. You'd seemed so stressed when we talked in September, and we wanted to help with your living expenses if we could manage it. But when you never responded, we assumed. Her voice broke slightly. We assumed you were embarrassed to talk about money with us. Mom, I never saw that email. Someone was intercepting my communications. I couldn't bring myself to explain the full scope of Jake's surveillance yet. Are you and Dad okay? Financially? Another pause. We're managing, honey. The mortgage was necessary for some medical bills, your father had some heart tests done, nothing serious, but insurance didn't cover everything. We didn't want to worry you during your final thesis year. Dad's heart. Medical bills. My parents had been struggling with health scares and financial pressure for months while I'd been too absorbed in my own graduate school bubble to notice. And when they'd reached out, Jake had stolen that connection too. I'm coming home this weekend, I said. We'll figure everything out together. Sarah, you don't need to. Yes, I do. I should have been there already. After hanging up, I sat in the now quiet cafe, processing the full scope of what Jake had stolen. It wasn't just career opportunities or prescription medications, he'd severed my connection to my family during a time when we all needed each other. Officer Martinez slid into Jake's abandoned chair. The preliminary search of his apartment turned up 17 packages with your name on them. Plus a filing cabinet full of printed emails dating back to August. We also found detailed schedules of your movements and what appears to be a financial portfolio tracking credit accounts opened in your name. How much money are we talking about? Preliminary estimate is around $23,000 in fraudulent charges across multiple accounts. But Sarah, there's something else you need to know. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo from Jake's apartment. He had photos of you printed out and arranged on a bulletin board. Recent photos, taken from a distance. Some from inside your building's courtyard. The image on her screen made my stomach lurch. Dozens of pictures of me walking to my car, entering my apartment, even sitting by my kitchen window reading. Jake had been creating a surveillance archive of my daily life. We're checking his computer now for additional evidence, but Sarah, this goes beyond mail theft. This is systematic stalking behavior that could have escalated further. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You'll never know when I'm watching. Jay. I stared at Jake's threatening text for exactly 3 seconds before screenshotting it and forwarding it to Officer Martinez. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something fundamental had shifted during our cafe confrontation. I'd stopped being afraid of Jake Chen. He sent this from jail? Officer Martinez asked, reading the message. Probably had someone send it for him. Or he had it scheduled. I deleted the text without a second glance. Honestly? I don't care anymore. Let him try. The next 6 months became a masterclass in reclaiming a stolen life. Jake's preliminary hearing was scheduled for February 15th. By then, the evidence against him had grown to fill 3 bankers' boxes, 847 emails he'd intercepted or responded to using fake accounts, $31,000 in fraudulent charges across 9 credit cards, 23 packages containing everything from my prescription medications to the Berkeley Fellowship letter, which had, in fact, been been an acceptance with a $52,000 annual stipend. Dr. Williams called me personally the day after Jake's arrest. Sarah, given these extraordinary circumstances, Stanford is prepared to hold your research position until fall semester. That gives you time to finish your current thesis and start fresh with us in September. The NSF grant opportunity Jake had hidden? Still available, deadline extended to January 15th after I explained the situation to their ethics board. The MIT conference invitation? Dr. Morrison helped me submit a late application that was accepted immediately once the conference organizers understood what had happened. But the most satisfying moment came on December 3rd, when I walked into my parents' house in Sacramento carrying a $5,000 check, my signing bonus from Stanford, and handed it directly to my father. "This is for Dad's medical bills and the mortgage payment," I said, hugging both my parents in their small kitchen. "And there's more coming." "Sweetheart, you don't need to," Mom started. "Yes, I do. We're family. We take care of each other." That's what Jake never understood. My father, who'd been suspiciously quiet about his heart problems for months, finally opened up about the stress he'd been carrying. I kept thinking we'd failed somehow, that we couldn't provide for our only daughter during the most important years of her career. "You provided everything," I said firmly. Jake just made sure I couldn't see it. Jake pled guilty to mail theft, identity fraud, and cyberstalking on March 8, 18 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised probation, and $47,000 in restitution. His lawyer had pushed for a plea deal when the evidence became overwhelming. I attended the sentencing hearing, sitting in the front row where Jake could see me. When the judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement, I stood up with a folder full of notes. "Your Honor, Jake Chin didn't just steal my packages. He stole 8 months of my life, $31,000 of my financial security, and nearly destroyed my academic career. But most importantly, he tried to steal my belief in my own judgment, my own competence, my own worth." I looked directly at Jake, who was staring at his hands. "The thing is, Jake, I'm stronger now than I was when we were together. You spent so much energy trying to control my life that you forgot I'm actually pretty good at taking care of myself." His eyes met mine for just a moment, and I saw something there that looked almost like regret. "Too little, too late. I start my dream job at Stanford in September," I continued. "I published 2 papers in the past 6 months. My parents and I talk every Sunday now. And I sleep perfectly soundly every night, knowing that you're exactly where you belong." The judge sentenced Jake to the full 18 months. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in almost a year. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "How did it go?" I typed back, "It's finally over. Want to help me move to Stanford this weekend?" Her response came immediately, "Hell yes. I'll bring the good champagne." I smiled, slipping my phone into my pocket, and walked toward my car without looking back once.